It's a Thursday here on Kauai, and somewhere on the west side of this island, something very bad allegedly happens between two men who know each other. We don't know exactly where, we don't know exactly what led up to it, but what we do know is this. Allegedly, a man is attacked with a gun and then with a knife in the same assault. And that man, that victim, does not call 911. He doesn't wait for help. He doesn't flag anyone down. He gets in a car and he drives himself to the hospital. From the west side of Kauai all the way to Lihue. That's not a short drive on a good day. And this was not a good day. He walks into Kauaʻi Veterans Memorial Hospital and he gets treated for a gunshot wound. And the hospital, because they are legally required to, calls the police. And that phone call, that one phone call that the victim probably never expected, that's where the whole story starts. This is not a case from the mainland, and this is not something I found scrolling through true crime Reddit. This is something that happened on Kauai less than 2 weeks ago. And it has been on my mind ever since I read the first press release. The case involves a man named Jason Bagain, 45 years old, from Hanapēpē, which is on the west side of Kauai. And on the surface, this looks like a straightforward story. Violent assault allegedly occurs, police put out an alert, suspect is caught. Done. Except it is not that simple. Because when I started digging into who Jason Bagain actually is, what his history is, what was already open when this allegedly happened, I had to put my phone down for a second because this story is not just about one incident. This story is about how someone can allegedly be known to the system, arrested by the system, processed by the system, and then somehow end up right back out there. So we're gonna get into all of it. The incident, the history, the catch, and the question that I genuinely don't have an answer to, that I don't think anyone has answered publicly. Let's go. Stay with me. If you don't know me, my name is Kristen, and welcome to XOXO Crimes, a true crime podcast by the truest, baddest bitch, Per. I try to post new videos every single Sunday, but if I don't hit it on Sunday, it will be out during the week. I'm so sorry. Life just gets a little too crazy sometimes, and I hate editing videos, but we're here. And we're queer. Happy Pride Month, by the way! For your pride. Anyways, I've been really enjoying making these podcast episodes. I've been enjoying communicating and talking to you guys about it. And I'm so happy that you guys are actually here. The channel is growing. I'm a little scared, but I'm so excited for the future and for this podcast to just blossom. It's just so exciting. Anyways, let's get into this story. Okay, I need to give you some context before we get into what happened, because if you don't know Kauai, you're probably picturing like the Nepali cliffs, helicopter tours, resorts, the island that shows up in every travel magazine as the most beautiful place on earth. And yes, that Kauai definitely exists. It's real, it's beautiful, but that's not the whole island. The west side of Kauai, specifically the towns of Hanapēpē and waimea, that's a completely different world. And I say that with love because it's real Kauai. It's working class Kauai. It's the part of the island where people actually grew up, where families have been for generations, where everyone, and I mean everyone, knows everyone. Let's talk about Hanapēpē. Hanapēpē is a historic town on the west side. You might know it for its Friday art nights or the famous swinging bridge that tourists come to take photos on. But Hanapēpē also has a history that doesn't make it into the brochures. In 1924, and I'm only touching on this briefly because it gives you a sense of what this town has seen. There was something called the Hanapēpē massacre. Filipino plantation workers went on strike, and in the violent confrontation that followed, 16 workers and 4 police officers were killed in one afternoon in this small town. Hanapēpē has been through things. It's a resilient, proud community, and it's also a community where people know each other's business and where secrets don't stay secrets for too long. Waimea. Waimea is a couple towns over from Hanapēpē, and it is tiny in a way that's hard to explain if you've never lived somewhere like this. This is where Captain James Cook first landed in Hawaii in 1778. Boo! Tomato, tomato, tomato. But anyways, it's a blue-collar, deeply community-oriented town. And these are the areas where Jason Bagain is confirmed to have spent his time. According to KPD's official alert, he was known to frequent the Waimea and Hanapēpē areas. And when I tell you context matters, I mean it. Because when you understand this community, you understand exactly how he was allegedly caught as fast as he was. But we'll get to that. So Thursday, June 4th, 2026, somewhere on Kauai, the exact location was not publicly released by KPD. Based on Jason's known area, it's believed to be somewhere in or around Hanapēpē or Waimea. An alleged altercation takes place between Jason Bagain and a man he knows personally. This is not a stranger situation. KPD confirmed that the victim and Bagain had a personal connection. Though the nature of the relationship and what allegedly led to this confrontation has not been publicly released. Here is what KPD's official press release states happened. The suspect assaulted the victim with a firearm and then used an edged weapon to continue the assault. The victim was able to flee the area. Let's break that down, because I think it's important to understand what assaulted the victim with the firearm actually means. That phrase means the gun was allegedly used as a physical weapon, striking the victim with it. Pistol whipping is the common term for this. And then there's the part that stopped me. Bagain allegedly switched to an edged weapon, a knife or some kind of blade, and continued the assault. So we're talking about 2 different weapons allegedly used in sequence in one attack. The victim managed to get away. He fled the scene, and at some point on that same Thursday, he shows up at Kauaʻi Veterans Memorial Hospital in Lihue being treated for a gunshot wound. And this is the part that I keep thinking about. He drove himself there. He did not call 911. He did not wait for emergency services. He made the decision, for whatever reason, to handle this quietly, to get himself to the ER and let that be the end of it. And I'm not judging that decision. I genuinely don't know what was going through his mind. But if you've ever driven that stretch of highway from the west side to Lihue, Highway 50, you know that is not a short trip under normal circumstances. And under these circumstances, I can't even imagine. Here's what the victim may not have fully accounted for. In the state of Hawaii, hospitals are legally required to report gunshot wounds to law enforcement. So when that ER team treated him, they made the call. And that report to KPD opened the investigation into what allegedly happened on June 4th. I also want to put in a really quick fact check. There is a slight conflicting version of events from a Kauai Now Instagram summary, which states that Bagain allegedly fired a gun at the victim but missed and then fled the scene. This version conflicts with both KPD's official statement and the confirmed fact that the victim was treated for a gunshot wound. I am going with the official KPD version as the most credible account. I want to be transparent about the discrepancy so you have the full picture. Who is Jason Bagain? So KPD gets this report from the hospital. They open an investigation, and on Friday, June 5th, they go public. They name Jason Bagain, 45, of Hanapēpē as a person of interest. They release his photo. It's a full body shot outdoors, and it immediately starts spreading across Kauai Facebook and Instagram. Hawaii News Now picks it up. KITV, the Honolulu Star Advertiser, Kauai Now, the story is out. His physical description from the official alert: 5 feet 7 inches tall, approximately 145 pounds. Brown eyes, black hair with visible tattoos. Known to frequent Waimea and Hanapēpē. KPD set up a tip line and a Crime Stoppers reward of up to $2,000. They were clearly asking the community for help locating him. And that's all interesting, but here's where I need you to really pay attention. Because when police went looking for Jason Bagain, they didn't just find a guy they needed to talk to. They found a man who was already a wanted man. 7 open warrants. I'm going to read you directly from KPD's official press release because I want you to hear this in their own words. Bagain is wanted on 7 criminal warrants, totaling $161,000 for having failed to appear in court on numerous occasions for charges associated. 7 criminal warrants. $161,500 in bail across multiple open criminal cases that he had already been charged with and had skipped court on. Not once, not twice. He had numerous fails to appear. That's the word they use in the official press release. Numerous. Now, I want to be really clear about something because I think it's important to be honest with you about what we know and what we don't. The specific nature of the charges behind those 7 warrants, what the underlying cases were actually for, has not been publicly disclosed in any of the sources available for this episode. So I'm not going to speculate on what those charges were. What I can tell you is that KPD confirmed 7 warrants, failure to appear on numerous occasions. But wait, he'd been caught before. And here's where it gets heavier. Because this isn't the first time KPD has had Jason Bagain in their system. Not even close. Approximately 1 year before June 2026, so roughly sometime in 2025, Bagain was arrested in a KPD warrant sweep in Lihue. KPD ran an operation that specifically focused on locating and arresting people with outstanding felony warrants. And Jason Bagain was one of the people they caught in that sweep. Here's the thing though, and this is the part where I had to read twice to make sure I was understanding it correctly. The warrant sweep post from KPD, which received over 230 reactions on Facebook, significantly more than the 2026 alert, references warrants totaling approximately 161,000 at that time, nearly identical to the 161,500 from June 2026. Which means when Bagain was arrested in that 2025 warrant sweep, he had essentially the same 7 open cases he had a year later. He was arrested for those warrants and then apparently he was released. And then he failed to appear in court. Again. And then June 4th, 2026 allegedly happened. I want to just sit in that for a second. He was caught. He was processed. He was let go. He didn't show up to court. He was still carrying those same 7 open warrants when he allegedly attacked someone a year later. And I keep asking myself, how does that happen? How does someone go through that cycle and end up back on the street twice before something like this allegedly occurs? I don't have an answer. I genuinely don't. And I think the fact that nobody has publicly answered that question is the most uncomfortable part of this entire story. I genuinely just don't understand what was the thought process behind letting him go again when you just detained him. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't get it. The Kauai Police Department just baffles me every single time. So Friday morning, June 5th, the alert goes out. Photo released, tip line active, Crime Stoppers reward up to $2,000 on the table. And within hours, the community responds. By Friday evening, June 5th, the same day the alert was issued, Jason Bagain is apprehended. Without incident, he's brought to cell block receiving desk. Total time from public alert to arrest, less than 24 hours on a Friday in a community where everyone knows everyone, where a $2,000 tip reward was sitting out there. Someone in that community, someone in Hanapēpē or Waimea, or someone or somewhere on the west side made a phone call or sent a tip, and that was it. KPD publicly acknowledged the community in their follow-up statement. Multiple outlets confirmed the arrest on Saturday morning, June 6th. I've lived on this island long enough to know that Kauai Facebook is its own ecosystem. When something happens here, it moves. People share, people comment, people call each other, and the engagement on that KPD post, over 70 reactions, shares from local community members, tells you that people were paying attention. And somebody, or maybe more than one somebody, made the right call. Literally, they called the tip line, or they contacted Crime Stoppers and they told KPD where to find him. I think that matters. I think that's worth saying out loud. In a place this small, community accountability is real. You cannot disappear here the same way you might be able to disappear somewhere else. On a small island, you cannot hide. So that is the Jason Bagain case, as much of it as we can tell right now. And I want to be upfront with you about everything we still don't know, because I think that's just as important as what we do know. We still don't know the victim's identity. KPD never publicly released it. We know he's a man who knew Bagain personally. We know he was treated for a gunshot wound, and that's essentially it. His name, his full story, what his life has looked like since that Thursday, none of that has been made public. The exact location of the assault, KPD reported it only as occurring on Kauai. Given Bagain's confirmed territory of Hanapēpē and Waimea, it's reasonable to place it on the west side, but that has not officially been confirmed. The formal charges filed after his arrest. As of the research date for this episode, Bagain was identified only as a person of interest. The formal charges following his June 5th arrest have not been publicly released. What the 7 prior warrants were actually for, KPD confirmed the number, the bail amount, and the failure to appear, but the underlying charge were never publicly disclosed. I am not going to guess. The history between Bagain and the victim confirmed they knew each other. Nothing beyond that has been reported. What happens in court? We don't know where this case goes from here. We don't know if charges have been formally filed, what those charges are, or what the timeline of proceedings look like. The question I keep coming back to, I've covered cases on this channel so far, and usually the hard part is figuring out what happened, piecing together the who and the how and the why. This case is different. What allegedly happened on June 4th is actually relatively well documented by KPD's own account. The catch was fast, the community responded. The part that keeps me up is before all of that, 7 open warrants, over $160,000 in bail, an arrest in a warrant sweep that led to more failures to appear, more open cases, more time walking around on this island that everyone shares. How? How do we get here? At what point in the cycle does someone, the system, the courts, whoever, step in and say, this is not working? I don't have an answer, but I think it's a question worth asking out loud. And maybe somebody listening knows something I don't. Maybe somebody's been watching this situation for years. Maybe somebody has thoughts about how this happens, not just here, but everywhere. Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you think. And this is just a legal reminder, Jason Bagain is a person of interest and has not been convicted of any crime as of the date of this episode. Everything discussed in this video is sourced from official KPD press releases, verified local and regional news outlets, and publicly available information. Thank you so much for being here and sticking around till the end. Honestly, covering a case this close to home is a different feeling. It's strange to drive through Hanapēpē or pass by the hospital in Lihue and think about the fact that all of this allegedly happened here. In places I know, in a community I'm part of. But I think that's exactly why it matters to cover it. Because real crime doesn't just happen in the places you don't see on true crime documentaries. It happens in small towns, it happens on islands, it happens in places where everyone knows everyone, and where the impact ripples through a community in ways that are hard to put into words. If you have any information about this case, please contact KPD Detective CARES at 808-241-1693 or submit an anonymous tip to Crime Stoppers Kauai. If you want to keep up with XOXO crimes, subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok at XOXO crimes, and if you want to reach out directly, the email is xoxocrimespod@gmail.com. Comment down below what you think. And as always, stay safe, stay smart, and XOXO. Toodles.